When I was working for a social enterprise organisation, one of the roles that we had and which I was very much involved with was supporting people with large amounts of debt to find a way forward and a solution to the troubles that were burdening them and weighing them down massively. Because I'd been on both sides of the money fence, I was able to work with a lot of people, and I want to talk about an example of a couple who came into the Money Advice Centre one day. Let's call them, for the sake of argument, Nigel and Kate. Not their real names, but they came into the Money Advice Centre and I had a first appointment with them, and they were in absolute distress. On an income of £20,000 a year, they were carrying £11,000 worth of debt on credit cards and a personal loan. So the interest rates they were paying were high, and there wasn't an easy way out of the solution. But it took a long time for us to work out that that was the level of their debt. When they came into the office, it wasn't immediately obvious that that was their debt level. We were just faced with a scared, tearful, worried young couple with 2 young children under the age of 5. They came in with several carrier bags full of envelopes. It's very common, and you may have experienced this yourself, I know that I've been through it, that rather than open all the post because you know it's debt related, you stuff it behind a microwave in the kitchen, you put it in a cupboard out of the way, and you avoid opening the post. That's a classic mistake, and it's a completely understandable thing. We don't want to face the things which are uncomfortable in life, and debt happens to be one of those situations when you're sitting in that position. Nigel and Kate had long since lost the ability to focus on what was a bill to be paid, what was a bill that they felt they should ignore, and how to distinguish between the two. We sat down, we spent a couple of hours together on that very first visit just to understand what Nigel's wage was, what the child benefit income was for Kate as the mum for these 2 young toddlers, and to understand the total of their commitments to regular expenses. They had a small mortgage, they had utility bills, they had debt on the credit cards, they had a personal loan which was at a high interest rate. They left and I had an hour going through the carrier bags, opening all the post, finding out all the duplicates and just destroying and shredding the things that were already replicated several times. I kept the most recent of each of their bills, and we identified from that they had £11,200 worth of debt. On Nigel's income of £20,000, that was quite a significant amount, more than 50%. The couple had had a lot of fears and tears on display, anxious, stressed, worried, fearful about what this situation was. And sometimes when somebody comes to you with a lot of debt, they're actually so scared they don't listen, they don't hear what's actually being said for the first time. So we invited them back for a second meeting a few weeks later, and we sat down and went through the creditors, the people to whom they owe money, and then we drafted a letter to each of the creditors saying, look, this is what they have as disposable income every month after food, accommodation and childcare. From that amount of money, we established what they could pay to the creditors, and each creditor was paid proportionate to the amount of money Nigel and Kate had available and reflected the percentage of the overall debt that each creditor had. We sent those letters out and we waited for the responses. Nigel and Kate came back for a third visit, which was 6 weeks after the initial appointment. And by going through that process with the creditors, calling some of them, but most of them responded via email and accepted the only affordable payment that Nigel and Kate could make, we worked a way for them to be clear of debt. It took 1.5 years for them to come back and actually be debt-free, but they had done a huge amount by cutting costs, working a way forward, as a couple establishing a new pattern of behaviour and a new way of looking at debt servicing so that they could find a way forward. I'm sharing this so you understand it's not all about you. Millions of people around the world are in colossal debt. We all individually at the time think, how am I going to get out of this? How on earth am I going to see into a new day, into a new future, into a place where things are brighter and easier and that I am in control. The truth is, it does happen, it just takes time. Patience is something that a lot of people in debt don't realise they actually have control over because the fear is so significant. And I share that story of Nigel and Kate just so that you understand that you're not alone. Millions of people are in exactly the same situation, but obviously debt is very personal and nobody else's situation seems as important or as relevant to our own when we're dealing with the problem of debt and trying to find a way through it.